Hey, everybody. Well, it is your favorite trainer, facilitator. I am Evangelist Pamela Burton, and I am coming to you guys with another training for Rise Leadership. Okay, for those of you that have not participated in Rise Leadership, if this is your first time, just to kind of give you what that means. Rise is to refine, inspire, sharpen, and equip. So this is Rise Leadership Academy. Here with Rise Leadership Academy, this is being done through Main Street Church of God in Christ, where our founder and pastor is the very own Elder Brandon Clay. And I, again, am your facilitator, Evangelist Pamela Burton. So welcome, y'all. Let's dig in. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about conflict resolution. Oh my goodness. A lot of times we need to just kind of have someone talk us through what does conflict resolution look like and how can we avoid it? Or when we're in the middle of it, how can we deal with it? So today, what we're going to focus on is what is conflict resolution? We're going to talk about strategies to conflict resolution. And then I'll, of course, tell you when our next class will be held. So y'all, let's dig in. All right. So conflict resolution, it actually means effective conflict resolution involves identifying the root cause, managing emotions, and using collaborative communication to reach a mutual agreement. So what does that look like? Okay, you may ask, what are some key steps that we can use in order to deal with conflict resolution? So when dealing with conflict resolution, it is first, we have to start with including a neutral meeting, define the issue, active listening, brainstorming solutions, and agreeing on a plan, often utilizing I statements to reduce defensiveness. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit deeper. So when we talk about conflict resolution, core conflict resolution steps are first, as I stated, you want to define the source, identify the underlying cause. What are the viewpoints? What are the unmet needs? What are we dealing with here? What are we talking about? What are we arguing about? What is the problem? We have to first identify it so that we understand how to move past it, how to resolve it. So once we define the source, what is the problem? What are we dealing with? And to give you kind of like a real world scenario, let's just say we're bumping heads on what we need to do next. We're in the middle of a fundraiser. And what we want to do right now is we're trying to figure out what is the best fundraising option for us. So we first sit here and you got your idea, I got mine, but we can't seem to come to a mutual agreement. And we're angry and we're just like, it's my way or your way. We're bumping heads. So when we're talking about conflict resolution, we first got to identify what is your stance? What is my stance? And then we have to manage our emotions. We got to take time to calm down and encourage all parties to be level-headed, to really sit in it, and y'all, which we're going to dig into this a little bit more, avoid personal attacks. And then we want to meet in a neutral location. Sometimes maybe we don't just need to be us. Maybe it need to be a mediator, somebody that can sit with us and help us to pull our ideas together and come up with a mutual understanding or a mutual agreement as to what works best for both parties. So what that means is, let's get somebody to sit in, and we're going to sit with this person, and they're going to help us to talk through what this conflict is. Why are we here, and how do we resolve this? Okay. And again, you avoid using the word I, use the I statements, because the I statement means I'm taking ownership. This is what I feel. I feel like you're not hearing me. I feel like in this case, we should do this, but that's how I feel. And then you're going to come back and say, okay, well, I feel this. And now that facilitator or the mediator is going to say, okay, I heard you with your statements. I heard you with your statements. Now let's come together and figure out how we can formulate a solution based off of what both of you, the I's, want. So it's all about sitting there and not feeling as if you were ignored, because that facilitator is going to help to alleviate it. Sometimes if you sit in it and you guys talk through it, you don't need a facilitator. If we're not being stubborn and we're not being prideful, we can talk through it. But we're going to dig into that a little bit more too. Just kind of giving you some pointers right now on conflict resolution, but we're going to dig into some strategies to avoid as we go through this lesson today. Okay, so practice active learning or active listening. We've talked about this before, where it's important to listen. We don't want to listen. We always want to be right. We always want to feel it's our way or no way. That is not how this works. That is not how life works. At some point, we have to sit back and listen to other people. You have to respect them. You have to hear them. You have to try to understand their perspective, because we don't see things the same. Everybody doesn't see things the same way. So for us, it is sitting in that place and understanding, okay, I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. Now let me give you my perspective and tell you where I'm coming from and why I feel like I feel. And now that we both have laid out how we feel, because we've heard each other, now we've shared our ideas, our thoughts. Now we can come together and formulate a goal, a resolution for what we are sitting in, this conflict that we are sitting in. Now we can sit here and figure out, you know what? Let's brainstorm and figure out how we both can work together in order to get what we need. So y'all, let's dig in a little bit more, okay? At the end of the day, we want this to be a win-win, right? We want everybody to get what they need in this moment, in this situation. So in order for us to get what we need, we both need to be heard, right? All right. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. All right. Okay. This is a quote that I saw it, y'all, and I thought this quote was absolutely amazing. All right. This quote is by an American actor and motivational speaker. American author and motivational speaker, Leo, and I will not butcher his last name, but he actually stated, he wrote a book called Living, Loving, and Learning. Y'all, he stated, never let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be loved. Y'all, that speaks volumes. Look at the images, the graphics that I actually put here. In the first graphic, you see two individuals who are sitting at the table. And y'all, it looks as if there are two megaphones, and that's all you see are the megaphones. What that means is that they are both talking at each other and they're not listening to each other. How many of us do that? How many of us sit at the table with somebody and they're talking and all we're doing is listening to speak versus listening to hear? That is one of the growing problems that we have, is that all we're listening to them to do is, I'm listening for my moment so I can have my either I gotcha moment, or no, I hear what you're saying, but this is what I'm saying. And to be honest, you didn't hear what they said because you were listening to them in order to come back with your comeback, as we call it, the clapback. No, I don't want to hear you. I want you to hear me. Y'all, when you're doing that, all you do is look like this picture. You got two megaphones that are basically sounding at each other, yelling at each other, and nobody is hearing anything. But you have to sit back and you have to be attentive to what the other person is saying, because everybody is entitled to their thoughts, their opinions. Doesn't mean you're always right. You can voice your opinion. You can voice your thoughts in a respectful manner and be heard. But oftentimes what we want to do is, you hear me, but I don't want to hear you. Check yourself and see if that's you. If you're the one that always got to be right, you're the one that never want to hear anybody, then 9 times out of 10, you're the one that's causing the conflict. Let that sink in for a second. Okay. Look at the second graphic, guys. The second graphic is tug of war. And this goes back to the first graphic. When you're talking at each other and you're not listening, all we're doing is fighting against each other. We're not trying to resolve anything. All we're doing is literally sitting here and we are coming against each other. Why? Why are we doing that? Come on, y'all. We got to be better, right? Let's be better. All right. So here we are. There are some key strategies to conflict resolution. All right. Let's talk about these key strategies. All right. There are 5 conflict resolution strategies, and these strategies were developed by Kenneth Thompson and Ralph Kilman, who developed the strategies that people use to handle conflict. And they are avoiding, competing, compromising, accommodating, and collaborating. And we're going to dig more into these. But what I want you to do right now is to kind of look at each of these. See where you see yourself. Are you the one that always feel like you're competing with somebody else? Are you the one that is more willing to compromise? Are you the one that is more willing to be accommodating? Or are you the one that avoid altogether? You don't even want to talk about it. You just want to avoid everything. Or maybe you're the one that don't mind collaborating. We're going to talk this thing through. Let's dig in and see what each of these actually mean. Okay, so let's talk about avoiding. Oh my goodness. How many of us do avoiding? Y'all, avoiding is when people just ignore or withdraw. They don't want to deal with the conflict. Look at this picture, and you literally have the lady who is basically telling everybody what she wants to happen. Y'all, you know what's so funny about the picture is that you have these individuals who are in the room with her. They're sitting there. Y'all, she is so focused on what she wants. She's ignoring the fact that the people in her circle that's in this room with her are not even engaged. They are not even listening to her. They are not even present. And while no, I wouldn't think that any of us would be head down or playing with a pencil on our face, but how many of us can see ourselves in this picture? Yeah, you may not be the one that is sitting there with the pencil on your lip, but you may be the one that is sitting there and you have your legs shaking, you're patting your legs under the table, you're looking away, you're looking at, as I call it, the fly on the wall. You're finding something else that will get your attention other than the person that is presenting. Or maybe you're the one that is completely checked out altogether. Or maybe you're the one that, you're not sleeping, you're not laying there with your head down, but you are not engaged whatsoever. Or maybe you are the one that is presenting and you're not even focused on what the people in the room, how they are looking. You're not focused on if they're engaged. It's all about you, and you don't care. You're avoiding all of that. Nobody wants to deal with the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to deal with the conflict in the room. Nobody wants to deal with the situation in the room. They have completely withdrawn from the conflict. Y'all, people choose this method when they're when they feel discomfort, when they don't want to deal with confrontation. Y'all, when they feel like it's just better for me to step back and not even have to deal with you, not to even have to address you, versus sitting here and having to fight a battle. They feel like you're not safe. You are not a safe place for them. Y'all, while this might seem easy to accommodate for the facilitator, people aren't really contributing anything of value to the conversation. And y'all, they may be withholding worthwhile ideas. When conflict is avoided, nothing is resolved. If you are sitting in the middle of conflict right now and you are avoiding it, it'll never be resolved. You're not talking it through. You're not communicating. You are letting the person say and do whatever they want to do while you are sitting there with your own ideas, your own thoughts. You are feeling like you are overlooked. You are getting angry. You're frustrated, but you won't say anything because you know that if you say something, it honestly may set them off, or you won't be heard anyway. So you just avoid it. Can you see yourself being the one that does a whole lot of avoiding? If that's you, y'all, the best way to communicate your thoughts is to first stop avoiding and say, you know what? Have you considered when you have somebody that is presenting, maybe you need to step back and say, well, have you considered XYZ? Have you considered us doing things this way? Or maybe have you considered this perspective? And then you share your thoughts and we all come to a consensus. Yes, they may accept what you've stated. They may not, but you also have to be okay with them accepting or not accepting. At the end of the day, it's still about us talking and not avoiding whatever that issue is. Say, for example, you're in the middle of a project. You're trying to do some things and you're like, okay, we need to talk this thing through. Avoiding it isn't going to help at all. You talk it through. And if you are feeling as if talking is not this is not a safe place for you, then again, that's when you pull in a facilitator. Y'all, I often say, stop always feeling as if, and I'm going to take it back to the church, because the first thing we always want to do is snatch in the pastor. Y'all, there are other people besides the pastor when you are dealing with conflict. Okay, if you are in the midst of a project and you feel like this is not a safe place for you to talk this thing through, and you've been avoiding, but you don't want to avoid it anymore, you really want to talk to this person, pull in a neutral person. Don't just run to the pastor. Pull in a neutral person, somebody who is neutral to this. They have nothing to do with this project, but they can help facilitate. You may pull in another ministry leader, somebody that has nothing to do with what you guys are talking about, but they can sit in the midst of you guys and they can help to facilitate what you are talking about. They can hear your perspective. They can hear the other person's perspective. And that way you're not avoiding what you're feeling. You guys are talking it through in order to come to a resolution. We have to get past the avoiding stage. Stop ignoring it and deal with it head on. Because if you don't, it leads to stress. It leads to more anger, more resentment. It leads to people leaving. Think about it this. Here's some bad examples of avoiding. Okay? Y'all, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, Genesis 3, and they had, they had actually taken a bite of the apple and now their eyes are open. Y'all, they hid from God in the garden after being disobedient. They went straight into avoiding. How do you avoid God in the garden? He see you. You're hiding and he see you. How do you avoid God? But instead of them dealing with it head on, they tried to avoid God. Y'all, you cannot avoid it. It's going to be seen. You're going to have to deal with it eventually. So we deal with it on the front end versus trying to push it off and deal with it later. Think about Jonah. Jonah fled. Y'all, he fled in the opposite direction, y'all, to avoid delivering God's message to Nineveh. Y'all, we already know the chaos that ensued with him. Y'all, he fled, and what ended up happening? He still had to return back and deal with it. He couldn't avoid it forever. Now, here's an example of good avoiding, meaning that somebody dealt with their issue, right? So talk about Joseph and temptation. Genesis 39, 9 through 12. Y'all, Joseph refused to commit adultery with Potiphar's wife, ultimately fleeing the house to avoid the situation, stating, how then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Y'all, what he did was an example of, I'm avoiding this temptation. I'm avoiding this because me avoiding this is going to cause me to sin. So he saw that me avoiding this was going to cause me to do something that was going to eventually show up negatively on who I am in Christ. So rather than him staying there, knowing that if he stayed, he could possibly commit adultery, he could fall into sin. He knew that he needed to avoid that situation and get out of that situation. So yes, in this instance, y'all, he avoided it in order to be obedient to Christ. And God still got the glory at the end. So we have to look at every situation, and instead of avoiding, when you can, talk it through and not avoid it, you talk it through. If it's going to lead you to sin, you go sit with God and you talk that thing with God and you let him lead you on how to better handle that situation. Let's dig a little deeper. Okay, so again, talking about avoiding, here are some things that we have to look at when talking about avoiding, guys. Difficult conversations can often trigger fear. How many of us deal with that? You know, when you're talking about hard conversations, sometimes it's easier to avoid a hard conversation than to sit in the midst of that hard conversation, right? I get it. I promise you I get it. But running from it doesn't help. Sometimes we have a fear of hurting people. We have a fear of being misunderstood. We have a fear of conflict. We have a fear of emotional exposure. Oh God, you're going to see what I really feel. I'm actually putting myself out here for you to see me. I don't want you to really know how I feel because I don't know how you're going to take my feelings. Are you going to step on them? Or are you going to hear me and honestly honor me in the place that I'm in? Are you safe for me? For some people, silence feels safer than saying the wrong thing. Avoidance becomes a coping mechanism. Y'all, not everyone has learned how to communicate feelings. Is that you? Sometimes some people grow up in environments where emotions weren't discussed. They were ignored, minimized, or shut down. So when a difficult conversation appears, they don't lack care, they lack experience. I was never taught how to deal with this, so I avoid it. That's what I've been taught. I've been taught to avoid stuff versus dealing with it, right? That means you have the lack of tools to deal with it. Y'all, this is teaching us how to see people where they are in that situation. Because sometimes when you're dealing with avoidance, sometimes God allows us to go through things in order for us to see who we are, or for us who actually see that you are avoiding stuff, it's our time to help you to get past that and to teach you that I'm a safe place for you. You don't have to avoid this with me. We can sit down and deal with this together. You don't have to run. Come on, let's sit down at the table. Y'all, sometimes people feel like silence often means that, or sometimes silence means that people are overwhelmed. They become, sometimes they feel like they're indifferent. When emotions pile up, words get heavy. People go quiet not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much at once. Y'all, they pause to protect themselves from emotional overload. Have you ever been around somebody and you can tell that they just go into a shutdown place? Y'all, I used to do this. I used to, when I felt overwhelmed, I would go into this place to where I wouldn't say anything. I would just be quiet. My silence was enough to let you know I've checked out because you're not my safe place anymore. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to address this. I don't know how to deal with this. Y'all, when you're feeling overwhelmed and that emotional weight, it's hard to resolve anything, so you avoid it. And what we have to do is become a safe place and know that, okay, I can talk through this. When you see somebody like that, that's the time to say, you know what, let me pause. And now let me address you. I'm a safe place. You can talk. You can say what you need to say. It's okay. It's okay to express yourself. Be a safe place for them. If they leave the conversation and they got to run and talk to somebody else, the pastor or somebody else, you're not a safe place. They don't feel safe with you. In actuality, you have become a place where they feel like if they talk to you, you're going to come against them. You're going to turn their words on them. You're not a safe place. Y'all, we're supposed to be a safe place for people. The church is supposed to be a safe place. Are you a safe place? Think about that. Are you a safe place for individuals? You know, oftentimes we don't want to address that part. We don't want to recognize who we are because we think we got it all together, right? We think, nope, I'm good. I am your safe place. No, you're not. Because the last time I talked to you, all you did was talk crazy to me or you ignored what I said. You're not a safe place. You avoided everything that I said and you didn't even show any type of respect for anything that I said. You wanted it to be your way or no way. So I started avoiding everything and I would sit in the room and not say a word. And you didn't even see me. That is what we get when we avoid people or when we've created a space to where they feel like they have to go into avoiding us. They don't feel safe. Y'all, another way to deal with when you're talking about avoiding, y'all, time matters. The timing of a situation matters. Some conversations need space before they need answers. So pursuing someone before they're ready often creates more distance. So if you're in a conversation with someone and you see that they're starting to avoid it, they're starting to push back, sometimes it's okay to say, you know what? Let's step back from this conversation for a minute. You go and let's take a break. You go and have a moment where, you know, you can kind of decompress. You think through, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to think through. And then we come back, you know, for a meeting, maybe at 1:00. And we're going to talk through, you know, where are you? What did you think when you took a break? What I thought, and we're going to come back to the table and we're going to talk it through. When you see that somebody is starting to avoid, sometimes it's just best to step away from the table. Because when you're pushy and you're like, come on, let's talk this thing out, all they do is get defensive. They become even more avoidant. They begin to avoid the conversation even more. They get frustrated, and then it can lead to anger because now you've pushed me in my back in the corner, and now I'm frustrated and I'm going to come out angry. So now it's time. We have to recognize where people are and be able to step back. Y'all, not everyone avoid conversations to escape responsibility. Some avoid those conversations because they are trying to manage emotions they don't yet understand. They don't, that doesn't excuse their silence, but it explains it. Sometimes we need to stop talking and start listening. Start seeing people where they are. Why is this person quiet? Why aren't they talking? What's really going on? And then we need to meet them where they are. Let's talk through this. Hey, I see that you're a little quiet. Do you need a moment? Or is there some other way we need to, do we need to communicate differently? Are you feeling something? Do you have any thoughts, any ideas? You got to meet people where they are. You got to be able to recognize when they show anxiety. Let me step back for a second. Let me give you a moment to breathe and kind of decompress. But no, we like to be pushy. We want to deal with it right then and there versus saying, you know what? Let's step back from this. Let me see you for where you are. Is that you? Is that how you do? Let's keep it going. Okay? Okay. Just to wrap up avoiding, again, y'all, ignoring or withdrawing. You have short-term peace, but long-term strain. And then you have hope for the best, but rarely get it. What does all that mean? It means that when somebody is avoiding, they're either ignoring or withdrawing. That means that they're not hearing you or they're withdrawing back because they don't feel safe. Because you've already shown them it's your way or no way. So you need to go back and do some self-evaluation. Check yourself and see what are you doing? Why are people avoiding you? Okay? Are you a safe place for people? Or are they avoiding you? Short-term peace, yeah, you can avoid somebody for a short period of time. But guess what? Eventually, you're going to have to deal with it. You got to deal with that conflict. Because 9 times out of 10, when we're dealing with stuff and we are sitting with groups and all of that, guys, when you're working on a project and you're trying to avoid the people, you still got to work on that project. And what happens when you be like, I'm just not going to deal with it? They just can do whatever they want. Then you end up getting frustrated because you weren't heard. You end up feeling tension. You're feeling stressed. Y'all, when it's all said and done, it's a temporary peace, but you end up with long-term strain because now you didn't share your ideas, which were probably some amazing ideas, but you shut down and you just let them have their way. And now some of those awesome ideas are going out the window because you fail to address anything or fail to show what it is that you want. We got to do better. And then when we get to hope for the best, y'all, avoiding focuses on hoping the problem vanishes. It don't vanish. You bury it. It's like, again, taking your money and going out and putting it in the yard and thinking that you're going to get a return on that. No, you're not going to get a return. You just buried some money in the dirt. That's it. You ain't going to get anything off of that. You want a return on your investment. In order to get a return on your investment, you can't avoid dealing with it. You got to deal with it head on. You don't hope for the best. You put it, you talk it through. You go in and deal with investors. You go and put it, in something that's going to produce a return. So if you want a return, talk. Don't avoid, talk. Share your thoughts, share your ideas, talk it through. If that means having a cooling down moment, have a cooling down moment. If that means stepping away to gather information and then coming back so that we can talk this thing through, then go gather information and then come back to the table. Y'all, don't let a small thing turn into a big thing because you want to avoid it. Hit it head on. Talk it through. The person that is avoiding it, you need to make sure that you are dealing with things effectively, meaning let me talk to you and tell you how I feel. And the person that see you avoiding it, that person, if you are that person and you see somebody avoiding you, you need to be able to recognize, oh, they're trying to avoid this conversation. So let me see if they need some time to process, if they need some time to think this thing through, or what do they need in this season. You got to be mindful. The next one, guys, is competing. Y'all, competing is used by people who go into a conflict planning to win. They're assertive and not cooperative. This method is characterized by the assumption that one side wins and everyone else loses. It doesn't allow room for diverse perspectives into a well-informed total picture. Competing might work in sports or war, but rarely, y'all, does it work with problem solving. Rarely does it work in the church. It ain't gonna work. If you are always in the mindset of competing, y'all, it's not gonna work. All you're doing is creating a chaotic environment. Let's dig a little deeper. So let's be clear. When we are looking at competing, the first thing is be clear and direct. Clear and direct communication is key to conflict resolution. Y'all, instead of hinting or making vague accusations, be upfront about what you need. Use I statements again to take ownership of your needs and avoid putting the other person on the defensive. Y'all, focus on the issue. Y'all, we don't want to focus on anything. Oh my goodness. We want to sit there and we want to think that it's an attack by the person. It's not an attack. Well, let me take that back. Sometimes people are attacking you, but you got to recognize that too. Let me dig into that for a moment. You are not always right. You are not always right. We are not in competition with each other. When we are in the kingdom, whether you're in the kingdom or whether you are on your job, whatever, we are not competing against each other. Our job is to come together and to work together for the good of everybody, for the good of the project that we're working on. But what we decide to do is, no, it's about me winning. I want to be heard. I want my perspective to be heard. I want you to see it my way. I want to feel like this is my idea. This is my strategy. And all you're doing, once again, is creating a chaotic environment because it's your way versus everybody else's. We're not a team anymore. We are a you. It becomes a team of I. And that is not how the kingdom works. Let me see. Think about it this way. What if God had said, I ain't thinking about y'all. No, it's about me. So you know what? I'm not sending my son down there. Y'all don't messed up. Y'all down there doing what you want to do. So let me let y'all keep doing what you want to do. And I'm just going to be about me right now. I'm not going to compete for your time, your soul, your love. I'm not going to do all of that. I'm just going to go ahead and say, you know what? Let me keep Jesus to myself. Y'all do it and I'm just going to destroy the earth. And y'all will never have a entryway to me. Y'all, every day we wake up, Jesus still gives us an opportunity. You in the midst of sin right now. Why are you watching this? And he's still giving you an opportunity to get it right. He loves us that much that every single day, he is still battling for our love, for our attention. He's still giving us chance after chance after chance. When he could say, I ain't got to give you no more chances. I ain't got to compete for your love. I don't have to win. I've already won. That is Jesus and how he operates. He don't have to do all of this. But we want to wake up every day and compete against everybody else. So at what point do we look at our church members, at our family, at our coworkers, and we look at everybody and we say, we're in this together? I'm not competing with you. I'm working with you. We're going to love our way through this. We're going to talk our way through this. We're going to sit in the trenches together. We're going to come up with strategies together. It's not about one person winning. It's about us winning. Y'all, we have to win. Not I have to win. We have to win. We have to be willing to negotiate. We have to be willing to sit in the midst of all of this and look at everybody's ideas, everybody's thoughts, and come up with what is best for the entire group, what is best for the body, what is best for the body of Christ. Because remember, whether you're on your job or whether you're in the church, you're still a reflection of the body of Christ. You are the body. You are a part of the body. The head, the neck, the arms, the leg, all of it works together. So we have to be willing to negotiate no matter where we are. We got to be a reflection of Christ. And that means working together, knowing that we have to win, not you have to win. We're in this. That is how we reflect Christ. But instead, we want it our way or no way. Let that sink in for a while. How many chances have Christ given you in this season of your life? How many times have you sit here and he had to continue to show you that, yes, I love you. Yes, 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 yes. He's competing for your time, your energy every day. Y'all, let me move on. We talk about accommodating now. Okay. So the third conflict resolution strategy, y'all, is accommodating. Y'all, accommodating is a strategy where one party gives in to the wishes or demands of another. They're being cooperative, but not assertive. This may appear to be a gracious way to give one what they want, but y'all, it's actually wrong. It is wrong, and it can lead to arguments. People accommodate to avoid arguments, but it actually leads to argumentative spirits, it leads to a spirit of argument, or being argumentative. Sorry. It leads to that because eventually you're going to resent them. Eventually you're going to be talking to somebody that I call it the water cooler talk. You're going to be talking to somebody at the water cooler. You're going to be talking about, man, they said this and they did. I just gave in. I accommodated them, but I can't stand them. Why? Why did you even accommodate what they said if you knew you didn't agree with what they said in the first place? You did that to yourself by accommodating. It goes hand in hand with avoiding. You're accommodating something that you don't even want to accommodate because you think in your mind you're keeping the peace, but instead you're not keeping the peace. You're actually creating a chaotic environment again. Y'all, we don't want to resolve anything. We don't. We look at things like accommodating and avoiding and all of that as keeping the peace, but it really isn't keeping the peace. Think about Rahab in Joshua 2. Y'all, she showed great courage by sheltering Israelite spies in Jericho despite the danger to herself. Y'all, she showed accommodating by protecting them. She accommodated them to protect them. That's a good way of accommodating. Because she didn't avoid the situation. She accommodated because she knew it was for the greater good of all. She knew it. She accommodated them. It took care of her family. It took care of her. Everybody benefited from it. They were protected. She was protected. We all benefited. But when you're accommodating and some people are getting what they want and some people are not getting what they want, are we really accommodating? Or are we avoiding? Everybody should feel comfortable within reason with where we are. And what I mean by everybody should feel comfortable, it means that we've sat down at the table and we've talked this thing through and we have agreed together on something. But we don't want to do that, right? No, we don't want to do that. All right. let's dig a little bit more into accommodating. All right. So when we're talking about accommodating, here we go with emphasize agreement. When using the accommodating style, emphasize finding common ground. Look for areas where you and the other person can agree, even if it's just a small aspect. Use phrases like, I see your point, or that's a good idea, to acknowledge their perspective or build rapport. This creates a more positive atmosphere and opens the door for collaboration, even if you ultimately choose to differ on the bigger issue. Y'all, be willing to sacrifice within limits. Y'all, I said that a few moments ago, within reason, right? Accommodating doesn't mean being a doormat. While it's okay to concede on some points to maintain peace, remember your own needs are important too. Set boundaries so you're not constantly sacrificing everything. This might involve saying yes to small requests, but explaining you can't always bend over backwards. You have to be able to talk it through and then find a balance. We got to compromise, right? And we're going to get into compromising more, but accommodating means we're going to talk this thing through and we're going to agree on some areas and then we're going to agree to disagree on others, right? Y'all, remember also to use de-escalating language. When using the accommodating style, prioritize calming the situation. That should be your first focus. Let me calm this situation down. Let's talk this thing through reasonably. Let's be calm, level-headed, clear-headed. Y'all, say things like, y'all, let's work together. Or, I understand your frustration. This shows empathy and this shows that you're opening up communication, that you hear everybody, you're listening. Avoid accusatory language like you always want what you want or you always get what you want, and do not raise your voice. Yes, you can be considered loud, because sometimes I am considered loud. I have a very loud voice sometimes. But you have to know your audience and you have to watch people and know when they're taking you and taking your loudness, when they're taking it as dominating or escalating. You have to be able to say, oh, y'all, if I am coming across as being demanding, or if it is coming across as commanding the room, y'all, I'm sorry. I am not trying to show that characteristic. Y'all, my mouth is just big. My voice is just loud. So I'm sorry, y'all. Let me tone this down because I don't want to come across in the wrong manner. You got to be able to recognize you and then recognize the people in the room. So tone your language down. Avoid accusatory language. Avoid escalating your voice. Recognize everybody in the room and their feelings. Remember, while accommodation fosters a peaceful environment, y'all, overusing it can lead to resentment and unsatisfied needs. Okay? So here's just a few pointers to consider when you are looking at accommodating. Be assertive when needed. If your core needs are constantly disregarded, learn to express them assertively. Watch for manipulation. That means some people might exploit your accommodating nature. Be mindful of that, because sometimes you can be that person to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm in agreement with you and you're just accommodating, right? You're keeping the peace. But some people will take that and manipulate you with it. Oh, I just know they're going to give in, so I'm going to say whatever I got to say. They do stuff like that. That's a manipulative spirit. And then, guys, long-term solutions. While accommodation works for short-term peace, it rarely solves the root cause of conflict. So we got to seek a win-win solution whenever possible. That means that we're going to talk this thing through together. Collaborating. Y'all, collaborating, the collaborating strategy in conflict resolution, all that means is it's the method used when people are both assertive and cooperative. A group may learn to allow each participant to make a contribution with the possibility of co-creating a shared solution that everyone can support. Y'all, when we collaborate, we're going to sit down at the table and we're going to talk this thing through. We're going to work for all parties involved, all ideas involved. We're collaborating. You bring your ideas, I bring mine. We're going to talk this thing through. Y'all, look at Nehemiah and the people in Nehemiah 3. The community worked together, with each group repairing the section of the wall adjacent to their own homes, demonstrating unity and shared purpose. Let's dig into collaboration a little bit more. Y'all, when we are talking about collaboration, you have to be open and honest. That's a form of communication a lot of us don't want to do. Open and honest collaboration actually hinges on open and honest communication. This means sharing your perspective, feelings, and underlying concerns directly, while also approaching the other side's viewpoint with an open mind. Active listening is key here. Truly pay attention to what the other person is saying and try to understand their experience. By fostering empathy and mutual understanding, collaboration creates a space where a win-win solution can be reached. Y'all, we got to be open and honest with each other. Let's talk this thing out. I feel this. You feel that. Now let's find a mutual spot of agreement. Yes, our feelings are here. Your feelings are here. We both have feelings, right? Now, what's in the middle? What's in the middle? What is our middle ground here? We got to find a place where we both win. We both feel like, you know what, we can agree that this is the right step for us together, right? That's collaboration. We're working together to come up with what we all will benefit from. Creative problem solving. Y'all, what this means is collaboration thrives on creative problem solving. Both parties brainstorm a wide range of solutions, considering unconventional approaches before deciding. All options are considered and their potential consequences before settling on a course of action. That means we talking this thing through. Because just because both of us are throwing out ideas, that don't mean that they are good ideas. We're going to talk these through and decide on what is the best approach. What does that look like? That means that this approach, we're going to brainstorm and, okay, what are the pros and cons of this approach? What are the pros and cons of this approach? What are the negatives? Is it going to create chaos? Or is it going to create a positive for everybody involved? Is it going to lead to destruction down the road? Because you're not just thinking about the now. You're thinking about what's down the road. We got to brainstorm and make sure we're looking at pros and cons of everything. Right? Y'all, it's called being creative and walking through the steps. We're really strategizing here. Together. It's something about working together. And we've gotten to the point to where we're so busy focusing on our own wants, needs, desires, platforms, that we don't want to do what God wants us to do anymore, which is to work together for the kingdom. We wonder why our church is going to hell in a handbasket. It's because we don't want to work together. The people in the church are creating more chaos than the people outside. Let that sink in. Step back and look at where you are right now. Are you a safe place? Are you collaborating with people? Do you work together for the greater good of everybody? Let that sink in. Y'all, build a consensus. Collaboration isn't about forcing a single answer. Instead, it's about working together once again through discussion and negotiation to find common ground. We work together. And then when we all walk away from the table, nobody is feeling attacked. Nobody is feeling like they weren't heard. Nobody is feeling like they didn't win. We all walk away feeling like, you know what? We all won in this situation because we work together as a team. And if that's not how you're feeling, we need to check the group, because that means that that group wasn't your safe place. And we need to go back to the avoiding stage, meaning now you're avoiding everything. You didn't collaborate in that moment. You avoided the situation. Compromising. Y'all, conflict resolution strategy number 5 is compromise. Y'all, this is where participants are partially assertive and cooperative. The concept is that everyone gives up a little of what they want and no one gets everything they want. The perception of the best outcome when working by compromise is that which splits the difference. This is the difference in everything. It means that we are all, you're giving me a little piece of what you want. You get a little piece of what you want. You get a little, everybody is getting a piece of the pie. Everybody is getting something out of this deal. We all were heard and we all worked together to get a little bit of peace. Because to be honest, in true compromise, that means that all of us have put all of our stuff on the table and everybody get a little piece of something. We all win together because there is something you can pull from everybody. We always talk about nuggets, right? We can glean nuggets from everybody. Well, you can glean nuggets from everybody because you can get a little piece of this, a little piece of that. Everybody get a little piece of nuggets from everybody. That's compromise. Think about Abraham and Lot in Genesis 13. To stop fighting between their herdsmen, Abraham proactively offered Lot the choice of land, sacrificing his own rights to maintain peace. Y'all, he gave up a little in order to get peace. It was a compromise. He didn't give up everything. He just compromised and said, you know what? We got to find a peaceful solution to where we all win. And that is what they did. Think about Paul with Timothy in Acts 16. Paul and Timothy circumcised, not because it was necessary for salvation, but to avoid unnecessary offense and to make their ministry to Jews more effective. It was looking at the bigger picture. It's looking at the kingdom. And what are people seeing? Is what we're doing now going to benefit the kingdom later? What are people seeing when they see us? Let's dig into compromise just a little bit more. Y'all, it's the art of give and take. Compromising emphasizes the art of give and take, meaning both parties openly discuss their needs and are willing to concede on certain points to reach a mutually agreeable solution. Negotiation and flexibility are crucial here. This doesn't mean everyone get exactly what they want, but rather we're all willing parties to bend a little bit for the greater good of everybody. We all get a little bit of something out of this. That's the art of give and take. Not everybody just giving or not everybody just taking, but we all give a little and take a little. I'm going to give a little bit of my idea. I'm going to take a little bit of your idea. And together, as we're giving and taking a little bit of each of our ideas, we'll come up with one magnificent, incredible, awesome idea, right? Right. Okay. Y'all, quick resolutions, but not always lasting. What does that mean? While this can bring matters to close quickly and keep things moving, it doesn't always address the root cause of the conflict. These underlying issues can linger and resurface down the line, potentially sparking renewed disagreements. So compromising offers a fast resolution, but it may not be the most sustainable approach for long-term conflict management. So what do you do in situations like this? Rather than doing quick resolutions, we sit and we talk them through. In some cases, depending on, let's be honest, depending on how much time you have in order to work on a project, yes, you may have to get something quick. Absolutely. We're going to sit down quickly and come up with something. But what we're going to do once we come up with this quick resolution, we still got to look at the pros and the cons. What is this going to do long term? What is this going to benefit? If we need something now, we have to be able to state that and say that hey, we came up with this quick resolution. It's a now it's a now solution, a now resolution, but it isn't a long-term resolution. So we're still going to have to go back to the drawing board. And then, guys, we have to look at finding good enough solutions. That means that I still need to always be finding things that long-term are going to benefit everybody, right? Right. We're in this together. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about we and working for the kingdom. What are we projecting for the kingdom? Y'all, I want us to walk away with this scripture: seeking peace and unity. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Matthew 5:9. Y'all, anytime we are in the midst of conflict, remember, we want to resolve conflict. And that means being level-headed. It means working together. It means collaboration. It means that we're collaborating. We are not competing against each other. It means that we are just not accommodating, but we are talking it through in order for all of us to have a win-win. It means that we are compromising with each other. Y'all, it means that we are not avoiding the issues. We are in this thing together. And if we do conflict resolution the right way, which is God's way, which is at the end of the day, we are fighting to make sure that we all walk away peaceful, working together in love, and we're putting each other's feelings, and we're making sure that we're respectful of each other. If we're doing it God's way, then we all win. So it's been Evangelist Pamela Burton for your training on conflict resolution with Rise Leadership Academy. Y'all, I thank you for this opportunity once again, and I hope that you will go back and watch this, pull out some more nuggets, listen to it again and again and again until you got it. Let it sink in. Y'all, thank you for being present. And again, thank my pastor for allowing me the opportunity to be your facilitator for Rise Leadership Academy. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.